Deathstroke Rebirth issue 1, written by Christopher Priest and art by Carlo Pugliam.
Sure.
Pugliam.
Pagulian?
Paguliam. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
All right.
Carlo. I'm just going to call him Carlo.
There you go.
For future reference.
Getting informal here.
Yeah. Well, like, if you've got a last name that I can't pronounce, then your first name's going to just have to do.
Hey, you started nailing Giordano.
To be fair, I've still been calling him Carmine. Well,
That's true.
For shorthand when we're actually talking about the book.
That's true.
Deathstroke Rebirth issue 1. It says it's a rebirth.
Oh, go ahead.
It says it's a rebirth issue. Honestly, though, it feels like part 1 of a story. So that's first point. Other than that, though, I will say that Deathstroke is a character who I wasn't really interested in reading.
Yep.
A book about.
He's great as a supporting guy that pops in.
Yeah, as a villain, as the Deathstroke the Terminator who comes in and like fights.
Yeah, he can be Deathstroke the Terminator, right? And just be this villain, or he can be an anti-hero that teams up with whatever because it's part of the job. Kind of like in Percy's Green Arrow, he shows up at the end before Rebirth. So, and then we had the whole Shadow Deathstroke that kind of tainted because of Arrow, which wasn't completely terrible, judging from we know where the show went, but totally over the top. Yeah. So yeah, was not looking forward to this in the slightest.
Nor me. I was
looking forward to a bit more because I enjoyed the Higgins stuff with Deathstroke.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I know it can be good and enjoyable. So,
AKA Deathstroke with a big ass sword.
Hey, Deathstroke. I'm cool with big ass swords.
Yeah.
So with all those these pre-thoughts and these preconceptions out of the way of the character and whether or not we'd even want a book about Deathstroke, where did we end up in terms of liking it, Matt?
I liked it a whole lot. I dare say I liked it more than All-Star Batman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which shocked me because I read this over dinner thinking, I'm just like I gotta read it for the podcast. I could be reading a million other things right now because of the podcast, my other books have fallen to the wayside since I have a time.
You could also be reading Red Hood, so,
Or I could quit.
Hey, we'll get there.
Yeah. So, anyways, as I'm reading this, as I'm eating dinner, I stopped eating dinner at a certain point because I got so engrossed in the story.
I have a question. Did it help that you opened it up and it said the bear?
Yeah, but his name's Deathstroke, so I don't imagine good things happening to the bear.
Yeah, that's true.
Wasn't as terrible as what Josh Williamson did to me in an issue of Birthright. So, where he has this character tame a bear and then kill the bear, and that was just heartbreaking, right?
Jeez.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So here, and I was like, well, where's the bear? And then it started to take on double meaning, like Deathstroke as a dad, which you don't get to see that a lot. Like that's why he became a character. Is Grant in Teen Titans and I forget what the arc where he's brought in, but it's before the Judas contract because that's the culmination of that story. But he's brought in to fulfill Grant Wilson, what's his name, the Ravager.
Yeah.
His contract on the Titans, and that's the whole reason he gets involved is because of his son. And then over time, he's just become this badass mercenary that can go toe to toe with Batman. You forget though that he had 2 kids, and
It is one of those things where he's always intrinsically tied to the kids, but you never see him being a dad.
Exactly. And here you do, and he's like a dick, which you kind of think, well, yeah, he's a mercenary. Like he kind of.
Of course, he's a dick. Yeah.
Of course he is. But seeing how it all plays out, and then how the through line goes with the story, with the Red Lion, which I'm not going to try to say it in whatever language. It's like Jakari, or whatever the character's name is. And Clock King makes an appearance through there.
Oh yeah, we should sum up what the book's actually about.
Yeah. So Deathstroke shows up. So it gets set up with a flashback of him taking his sons camping, and him going into Africa to take out a target. And it gets a little murky because the president of this rogue African nation, which I think he's the president, right? Or the leader, whatever he is. He's offered the target protection, but also doesn't want him there. So he's doing like this whole thing on the sly.
It's like the bare minimum he can give him
Yeah.
without like going over his mandate.
Right. So yeah, so like he's like, yeah, he's under my protection, but that doesn't mean I can't tell you where he is. So
Yeah.
he allows Deathstroke to go in, and then you find out that it's Clock King. The Clock King offers him basically a deal that if he can flip, he'll help him. Because from what I got, Deathstroke was being not blackmailed, but they had somebody close to him, and they were extorting Deathstroke services.
Yeah,
to
this old dude who he finds at the end.
Yeah, which Wintergreen, which if you know your Teen Titans and Deathstroke, that's his Alfred basically. And then when we're introduced to Teen Titans when Johns first took it over back in the early 2000s, Wintergreen was a head on a wall that Deathstroke had taken out. So if you haven't read that, go take it out because I don't want to spoil what had happened. So this completely relaunches all of that. And it was a nice, like, I don't want to say it was an espionage, but it felt that way because he's double dealing. Deathstroke is, and goes in and it ends with him saving Wintergreen, who's watching all this unfold.
Yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the whole political shadiness of it, like you're saying. Like he's kind of always just towing the line in it, like not quite hedging either way.
Yep.
I find that really it's fascinating when characters like that for me.
Yep.
I thought it was well written. I thought the way it was structured was very good. The way it cut between the different things and the way each like section had a title. Like I thought it was very well put together. You know, it had a very good sort of artistic approach to it, if you will.
Yep.
I still don't know if I care. Because like as I was reading it, I'm like, I don't really care about Deathstroke. I don't care about Slade. Like,
but maybe after a few issues you will.
Maybe, but I don't know. Like the opening of the thing has him being, as you say, I could be a complete dick to his kids. Like,
well, and the kids are complete dicks back, which I love because if they're gonna play with that timeline, we know Joey becomes Jericho after his throat gets slit and he can't talk, and his whole power is he can jump into bodies when you make eye contact, and we know Grant becomes the mercenary himself as the Ravager.
It's one of those things where if you've got a dad like him, like a dick, of course the kids are going to be dicks back.
Right.
It makes sense.
Well, and Grant tells him you only come in and screw mom and then, act like a dad to us, then you're back out on the road. Like, you're barely a dad.
Yeah.
So, but I think the family dynamic's going to be there because I think we're going to get more of this throughout, his kids. Because he seems to do, like, despite being a killer, Deathstroke seems to have a thing of honor, which
yeah, he
makes
definitely
sense. Because, when they created the character, Marv Wolfman,
well, it's when
that in there.
When he comes out and he says to the guys who are driving the truck, "Give me all the money in your pockets. Like you've just hired me." You know.
Yeah, this is a contract.
Yeah.
So no, I really ended up liking it, having no expectations for it, being I have to read this because it's the Rebirth issue, and we're going to cover it on the podcast. I am so glad I did because this gets added to my poll for at least the first arc. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, you give it a fair shot now.
Yep.
I'll read issue 1 and see how I feel after that.
Yeah.
Right now, to be honest, I'm not in a great deal of caring about it.
Which I get. You're not a person I've heard ever clamor over someone like Deathstroke.
Well,
so,
you know I'm not a big espionage guy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
And I'm also not someone who typically likes the idea of following a villain.
And you clearly don't care about cool action scenes with swords.
Yeah.
They can be good, but, I
mean, there was a cool one in this, and I'm sure we'll get cool in many of the other issues.
Well, this is the first time I've read a Deathstroke book, because every other time I've read him, he's a supporting character where he actually has a character outside of Unstoppable Killer. So, maybe if the Higgins run, because you're not the first person that said the Higgins run's really good.
It's not that long.
Check it out. Yeah. Well, he only was on it for like 8 issues.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's all in one trade.
And then they gave it to Tony Daniel. So, but also in Flashpoint, he was a pirate, which was cool with the eye patch. And he was one of Aquaman's enemies as Emperor Aquaman. So that was strange and a fun read, but yeah, definitely not because Deadpool is based off a joke for Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't go that route and try to make him a Deadpool because Harley's already taking care of that in DC. So, but yeah, no, Deathstroke definitely. I recommend it too if anybody's mildly interested in the character. Unlike Pete, which I don't begrudge him because
Yeah.
This is just a dick, isn't he?